let me introduce to you my co-hosts, Fez, Guinevere and Bliss, who seems to take a liking to the rear tyres on the truck. They say never work with animals. Well, I don't call these animals, these are our pets. Oh, and there is also Cloud, Cass and Gary the Goat. All part of today's, or this week's video on my 2005 Mitsubishi Shogun Sport. Welcome to this week's Fast and Fun. So this is it. It's the end of the line for my Shogun Sport. 4 years of ownership, and we've decided to move on. Move on to try something different, and that's not easily said when for pretty much the last 10 years we've used different forms of Mitsubishi Shoguns. I had initially a Pajero, so a JDM import Shogun, the full fat version. We then moved to a UK spec Shogun, and then latterly, 4 years ago, we moved to this 2005 Shogun Sport, so the scaled down version. And it's been a pleasure for over the last 4 years. Bought it with 100,000 miles on the clock. Now sits with 115,000. So in the 4 years, we've averaged just under 4,000 miles a year. And it has categorically been the workhorse for the family. The one car that has been used and abused more than anything else. Predominantly loved its time as an off-road car. And it's working overtime now since we have moved into the small holding. And we just want to move on. Let's see what else is out there, what else can do things similar to what the Shogun Sport does. But I wanted to take a look back at 4 years. Look at the highs and lows, what I've been up to, what things have gone wrong, what I think are the good points and the not so good points. So these first generation Shogun Sports were built from the sort of mid-late 90s all the way through to, I think it was about 2008. Most of the UK spec ones came in around 04, 05, 06. And they were quite a unique type of car, really. The scaled down Shogun Sport, really. And this one comes in top spec, which was Warrior, leather, all leather, full leather interior, and it's worn really, really well. But that's pretty much where the luxury stops with the Shogun Sport. It is based on the L200 pickup. It is a agricultural by its nature workhorse, and it's suited our needs absolutely perfect. And I think it's important to remember that these 15,000 miles that we've done in it, been used hard, lots of short journeys, but it's also been on a few long ones. The epic Isle of Mull road trip in that first year, owning it right up to the west coast of Scotland. That was about 1,500 miles in the week there. And although its forte is certainly not on the motorways, because it just doesn't feel right. It's not comfortable. It's not good enough to cruise at that sort of motorway speeds. It's certainly better as that utility vehicle. For us, it suited our needs perfectly. We wanted something that can go off-road, but we wanted something that is usable for dogs and rubbish and towing and off-road capabilities, and it's done everything. And it's been the one car that's been used and abused most. It's probably been washed far less than the other sports cars in the garage. And talking about sports cars, it is a sport in name, but certainly not in nature. There's nothing really sporty about the car other than looks. And I'd still, to this day, think Mitsubishi nailed the looks of the Shogun Sports. I think they do look smart, they do look good-looking cars, and especially with these optional 18-inch alloys. Right, I'm going to take it off and out of the fields. I'm going to put it onto the roads. I think that's its natural habitat where most of these will spend much of their time. And then I'll go through some of the highs and lows of my 4 years with my Shogun Sport. So what's gone wrong in the 4 years then with the Shogun Sport? Well, other than servicing and consumables, and by consumables I mean tyres is a really good one. I did fit Grappa all-terrain 3s on this about 6 or 7 months ago. Brilliant tyres, and they are for both on and off-road. You've got certainly much improved off-road performance without on-road noise. That's what I was concerned about. If you went for full-fat off-road tyres, they would be too intrusive on the road. The Grappa all-terrain 3s, they were about, I think it was about $650 for all four. They really did transform the car in regard to off-road ability, whilst maintaining some on-road compliance. So consumables and servicing was a given. Things that went wrong, largely there was a few suspension, again really consumable parts, ABS sensors, etc., track rod ends, a few of those type of minor things. And then the only two, I would say major, but one was actually low cost. The biggest, most costly, after the cost of the tyres, was in the first year, when, not in the first year, about a year ago, when power steering pump was leaking. And the power steering pump was about, I don't know at the time, $350 I think it was, and about £150 to fit it. So it was about a £500 bill for that. And then other than that, I had a bolt shear on the alternator belt, which took all the tension off the alternator belt, and I lost charge for the battery. But other than that, it's been so reliable, and that really shows you my loyalty, I think, to Mitsubishi and to the different Shogun variants, because that's what I've always had. I've always had really high reliability with all the trucks. Some of the negatives with it, well, first of all, it's not very fast. Well, in fact, delete the very off that. It's not fast. It's not even slightly fast. I would deem it as a slow, agricultural in nature, relatively noisy from a diesel clatter, and a little bit unrefined. And that's due to the base platform, the L200, really. And as a result of that, its fuel consumption is, for what is not a particularly heavy or full fat 4x4, isn't particularly good either. So the best I ever got was about 27 on the motorway, sat at a steady 60-65. But around town, around the forests where I live, the shorter journeys, it's generally in the low 20s. If you come inside the car as well, again, this is the Warrior, the top spec because of the full leather, but really that's about the only luxury you get in the Shogun Sport, because the rest of the dash, it's very plasticky, it's very typical sort of Japanese. It does what it needs to do, but it offers nothing more luxurious than that. Few annoying features. The driving position isn't particularly great. You do feel a little bit cramped up. I can't get the seat low enough. There's not enough adjustment in the seat. Not having a left footrest for your clutch foot can be incredibly annoying, because there's just nowhere for your foot to go other than hover above the clutch, which is okay on shorter journeys, but on longer journeys it can be really pain. And on the longer journeys where you do go on A roads or motorways where you could use cruise control, again, no cruise control in this, and as a top spec car you probably sort of expected it. The seats, the rear seats, when they are folded down flat, they don't lay flat, so you don't have a flat back to the truck either, which is quite annoying. If you've got something very heavy and flat that you want to slide in, even with the rear seats folded flat, there's still about a 4 or 5 inch step, so you have to go round and lift it up. And so again, it's these small things that just, I suppose, let it down from a practicality side. And I suppose other things are the turning circle. Well, it's like steering a tanker when you go into a car park. It's got a really wide turning circle, so you very rarely do 3-point turns. You end up doing 5 or 7-point turns. And again, minor indicators on the wrong side. Well, it's a typical JDM type of thing, that with Japanese cars. They always tend to be on the opposite side to the European manufacturers. And that sounds, and it's painted quite a negative picture, which is why I really wanted to finish on the positives, because there are lots of good positives. And I will start off with values as well. So, values of Shogun Sports, pretty much in working condition with a good clear MOT, they start from, well, pretty much 2.5k upwards. And considering I only actually paid nearly 4 years ago, just shows you how residuals have remained really strong for the Shogun Sport. They are sought after because they do offer that true off-road ability with on-road capability as well. What are some of the other positives I like from the time with the truck? Well, I think right at the top has got to be its reliability. You just know when you go to crank the engine, you know it's going to work. If you've got that really important journey, if you've got to be at a certain location, you know. These are old cars now. This is 2005, so this is 19 years old now, and you just know it won't let you down. And you rarely get cars as reliable as these Shogun Sports. And the looks, I think they've aged brilliantly well. I just love this in its classic silver with the large 18-inch alloys, with the rear roof spoiler as well, the bonnet scoop. It just adds a degree of, well, aggression to the car. I think for such an old, at times could have been outdated design, and I think it's aged really, really well, and I still think it looks smart now. The inside also wears really, really well. So these leather seats, what a test of time. Been used hard and abused. We've got in here with muddy clothes on, with wet clothes on, and the driver's seat, it looks as good now as it did when we first picked it up. There's so little wear on any of these black leather seats, and that just shows you the quality that Mitsubishi were turning these Shogun Sports out at. And it's full of little subtle but really useful design features. The hidden stowage under the rear seats for the jack and all the tools. If you collapse the rear seats, you have other holes and recesses to put your rear headrests whilst your seats are collapsed. And it's those features that you just know somebody in Mitsubishi has been thinking about the practicalities of it. The size, the dimensions, that scaled down 4x4 actually fits the mould really, really well for what we now know as sports utility vehicles. This was one of the originals, and those compact dimensions offer real practicality when you're trying to park it in your nearest supermarket or go down that tight, twisty lane that in a full fat 4x4 you'd just be scraping down the sides of the hedgerows. But I still think probably the biggest thing for me is its off-road ability. It's never or rarely got stuck, and if it has, it's always been able to get itself out. And that's just with the rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive or the high and low ratios, the flexibility it's got, the ability to go off-road when it's needed. And you know that because some of the hardcore off-roaders use these cars with high-riser suspension kits, etc. So the final word from me is, I think, thank you, Mitsubishi. Thank you, Shogun Sport. It's been an absolute honour and pleasure to own you for the last 4 years. And I think if you're interested in one of these cars, you need to bag one sooner rather than later. These are a dying breed, the original sports utility vehicles, but a true 4x4, as good off-road as on-road. And if you go in with eyes wide open, knowing that they are agricultural in their nature, they are a little bit unrefined and slow, but what do you get in exchange? You get reliability, you get dependability, you get an honest truck that can deliver what you need when you need. And I think with residuals as they are, with me having run this for 4 years and to sell it for perhaps what I paid for it, just shows you where the market is. The market knows. But I've loved every minute of my time. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, as always, please thumbs up, subscribe, stay tuned. Thanks for watching, guys.